The kennel of the mind, the taming of the free man. The wild wolf never asks for a leash, but when you feed him just enough, just often enough, when you whisper sweet nothings through the bars of his cage, he forgets the cold bite of wind on his face, and eventually he learns to smile when you pet him. Welcome to the great enclosure. No bars, no chains, no alarms, just comfort, convenience, and infinite dopamine. Modernity has pulled off the greatest domestication in human history, and it did not need to break your legs to make you stop running. It only needed to make you forget why you were running in the first place. You are not hated, young man. Not really. You are not persecuted, hunted, or hunted down. No, you are tolerated, fed, housed, entertained, rewarded for compliance, applauded for your softness, encouraged to emote, to overshare, to seek validation like a child asking for dessert after dinner. They don't want to kill you, they want to keep you, like a pet. Let's talk about the difference between a man and a pet, not in flesh, but in fire. A man is forged, a pet is pampered. A man sharpens himself against the whetstone of solitude, of silence, of pain. A pet is trained to sit, to beg, to roll over when told he's being toxic. And you can say, but what's so wrong with peace, with kindness, with comfort? I will tell you, because peace without purpose is sedation, comfort without conquest is decay, and kindness without truth is a lie in a velvet glove. Let us rewind time, as far back as we need, to one man who stared into this dilemma with eyes that did not blink. Friedrich Nietzsche, the lonely prophet of thunder, the man who, like Prometheus, stole fire from the gods and paid with madness. You know the quotes, you know the cliches, but you do not feel him, not yet. Nietzsche did not write for the masses. He wrote to summon the man buried underneath layers of modern sludge. He wrote not for society, but for the individual willing to suffer transformation. He wrote not to teach you, but to tear you open. His aphorisms weren't wisdom, they were shrapnel. Nietzsche saw what was coming, a civilization so safe, so self-congratulatory, that men would no longer need to face their edge. No war, no gods, no duty but to self-indulgence, and when man is no longer forced to climb, he forgets the mountain. In Thus Spoke Zarathustra, he warned of the last man, a creature who lives for comfort, who avoids all risk, who laughs at honor, and says formally, all the world was mad. The last man does not live, he persists, he survives, he scrolls, he masturbates, he obeys. He is the perfectly domesticated male. And here is the tragedy. The last man does not even know he has fallen. He thinks he is evolving, but he is only adapting to a cage. Look around you. Modernity has dressed the leash in silk. You no longer fight for your tribe. You click for your tribe. You no longer seek truth in solitude. You ask strangers on apps to mirror your feelings. Your food is delivered. Your porn is free. Your dopamine is instant. Your suffering is optional. But without suffering, how do you sharpen your edge? Without denial, how do you learn restraint? Without dragons, what makes your courage more than cosplay? The man who is never tested never becomes. He remains larval, a boy in a man's costume, waiting for permission to stand up. But permission will never come, because modern culture doesn't want you to stand up. It wants you cute. It wants you non-threatening. It wants you a smiling eunuch, endlessly agreeable, likable, soft, a good boy, a safe boy, a boy who never interrupts, never defies, never says, no, I will not sit. The leash comes in many forms. Watch for them. The therapist who pathologizes your anger, but not your passivity. Renotifies the job that praises you for being invisible and obedient. Renosat a platform that bans you for having a backbone. This is not patriarchy. This is not feminism. These are not enemies. This is domestication, and it's happening in your mind. Renotus returned to Nietzsche. He died in silence, alone, mad, forgotten. The same culture that now quotes him on coffee mugs once left him to rot. Why? Because he did not fit in the kennel, because he refused to be pet. Nietzsche was not a happy man, and that matters, because happiness has become the new leash. Everyone is selling it, but no one can define it, and so it becomes this amorphous goal. If you're not smiling, you're broken. If you're not comfortable, you're failing. But Nietzsche didn't chase happiness, he chased becoming. His pain was not dysfunction, it was transformation. That's the difference. And today, any man who suffers, who bleeds, who breaks, is told he is unwell. Instead of rising, he is prescribed. Instead of fighting, he is redirected. Instead of silencing his noise to hear his inner voice, he is told to share more. Open up, let it out, until there is nothing left but emotional diarrhea and identity soup.
What Nietzsche wanted was not to feel better, but to become worthy of his suffering. Can you say the same? Can you look at your pain and say, I will use this? Can you fast when all food is free? Can you stay silent when all noise is rewarded? Can you go without a woman and still remain a man? Yes, women, no, this is not about hating them. That would be too simple. Who resents women is already enslaved by them. But a man who is ruled by his need for women, he is a pet with lipstick on his collar. You don't need to demonize the feminine to recognize its power. Women are not the problem. Your obsession is. She is a muse, a mirror, a flame, a test. And like all tests, she reveals who you are, not by how you please her, but by whether you abandon your path to win her approval. Modern man has been trained not to lead, but to perform, smile, compliment, validate, perform, repeat. He thinks he is winning when he is liked, but the man on mission does not ask to be liked, he asks to be real. The moment you orbit her, you lose your axis, but when you become the axis, you attract the world. And that's the paradox modernity doesn't want you to know. You do not earn your soul through acceptance. You earn it through resistance. Nietzsche once said, he who has a why to live for can bear almost any how. But what if your why is TikTok clout and female validation? What if your why is not forged but fed to you? Then you are not living. You are being lived. By algorithms, by trends, by the faint praise of people who do not care if you rot in quiet despair as long as you stay polite. You must choose, the cage or the cliff, comfort or conquest, dopamine or discipline, pet or man. And know this, choosing the cliff will not feel good. You will lose friends, you will be mocked, women will call you dangerous, men will call you cringe, you will walk alone, misunderstood, questioned, punished. But in that crucible, you will forge yourself. And no one will be able to take that from you. Not the algorithm, not the woman, not the leash. Because once you've tasted the cold air of freedom, you cannot go back to the kennel. We are not here to be tamed. We are here to become.
Every man who has ever risen has first been tempted to fall, and most often he is not pulled down by chains, but by a smile. In every mythology, the feminine appears not merely as love, but as trial, not as enemy, but as threshold. Eve does not simply eat the fruit. She offers it. Helen of Troy does not simply exist, she ignites war. The sirens don't kill you, they sing. You kill yourself chasing them. This is not about blaming women. It is not about bitterness. It is about recognizing that the feminine, in all her forms, is not soft wind, but wild flame. And if you approach flame with soft flesh, you burn. The modern man, raised on comfort and Disney-fied romance, does not approach women with the reverence of a warrior. He approaches them like a pet looking for treats. Approval, validation, permission. He believes that love is given to the man who behaves, that is not how the feminine tests you. She is not here to reward your comfort. She is here to refine your character. She will pull you off your mission. Smile when you break your silence. Laugh when you bow to your impulses. Reward you for being less dangerous, and you will enjoy it. You will feel warm, desired, softened, but in that warmth your edge will melt, your focus gone, your discipline diluted, your solitude replaced with codependence, and the world will applaud this. Because a man in love is a man distracted, a man obsessed is a man disarmed. Let me tell you about Odysseus. Yes, the cunning hero of Homer's Odyssey, a tale that men today no longer study. They think it's about monsters and boats, but it is about temptation. It is about the longing to return, and the trials of remaining a man along the way. The Odyssey is not a journey home, it is a journey inward, a war not against the external, but against the dissolution of the masculine will. And every island he lands on is a woman, not in form, in function. Calypso, the nymph, offers him eternal pleasure. Circe, the sorceress, turns his men into pigs. The sirens sing songs of knowing, seductive, spiritual, intellectual, but they are all the same force, in different masks. Feminine temptation without masculine resistance leads to dissolution. And yet, modern culture wants you to stay on those islands. It tells you, this is enough. You don't need the journey. You don't need to struggle. Just feel good. And so many men never leave. They forget their Ithaca, their purpose, their throne. They stay in Circe's bed, wondering why they wake up feeling empty. They listen to the sirens through noise-canceling headphones. They scroll through Calypso's selfies, and their souls quietly rot. Here's the tragedy. Many women do not even want this version of you. They want the man who says no, the man who walks away when his mission is threatened, the man who is not afraid to be disliked because he is possessed by something greater than comfort. That this man is dangerous, not because he harms women, but because he no longer needs them to define himself. and a man who cannot be controlled is terrifying to a world built on compliance, which is why the culture offers you endless distractions in her shape, not her real self, but a curated, filtered, digitized simulation of her. Porn, OnlyFans, Instagram, endless streams of cleavage, thighs, lips and softness, with no weight, no friction, no intimacy, just image. You are not seduced by women. You are seduced by the idea of being chosen, by the fantasy that if you perform well enough, smile hard enough, show just enough vulnerability, she will appear, like Aphrodite stepping from the sea, and validate your existence. But real women are not fantasies, they are forces, and when a man forgets this, when he turns the feminine into his drug of choice, he does not become fulfilled, he becomes lost. Let us return again to Nietzsche. Few know this, but one of his greatest wounds was his obsession with a woman named Lou Salome. She was brilliant, free, untamable, the perfect mirror for a man like him. He fell hard, she rejected him, and it broke him. This is not a footnote, this is symbol. Even Nietzsche, with all his thunder and clarity, with his gospel of strength and solitude, was undone by the dream of being known by the feminine. He thought she would see him, instead she walked away. And perhaps that is why he wrote so fiercely about overcoming, about transcending, about the eternal recurrence, about saying yes to pain, to rejection, to solitude, because he knew, as all true men know, that the feminine cannot complete you, she can only test you. Will you remain whole when she leaves? Will you remain focused when she enters? Will you remain yourself, even as she stands naked before your soul? A man on mission is not immune to the feminine. He is aware of her power. He treats her not as enemy, nor as savior, but as flame. You do not put your face into fire and call it love. You respect the flame, and you use it to temper your steel. The modern man has forgotten this. He is not tempered, he is addicted to sex, to attention, to the simulated feminine. And so he no longer builds, he no longer creates, he no longer speaks with fire, because he whispers, hoping not to offend. And the woman he wants? She does not want the whisper, she wants the man who can hold her flame without flinching. But to do that, you must burn first, you must suffer, you must walk away from false goddesses, you must endure the desert, you must become the man who does not chase Aphrodite, but commands her respect. So what do? Do you go monk mode forever? Do you shun all women? Do you wall yourself off? No, you do not run from the feminine. You learn to contain her energy, like the hero contains the dragon's fire, not by slaying it but by channeling it into power. You do not worship women, you do not war against them, you meet them as a man, and you do not let them replace your mission. They may join it, they may reflect it, but they do not define it. That is your task, that is your discipline, that is your sword in the stone, not to be chosen, but to become worthy of lifting. Aphrodite's shadow will always walk beside you. She will appear in the faces of every woman you meet. She will whisper in your moments of doubt. Rest here, she says. You've done enough. Come lie beside me. Come forget. And you must choose again and again whether to answer her call or walk on. And if you do, if you walk on, you may find her not as a siren, but as a companion, not as a seductress, but as a flame you have earned, but not before. Not before. She is not the destination, she is the trial. Pass through or be consumed, to silence of lions, solitude, discipline, and the death of brotherhood. A man alone is dangerous, not because he seeks harm, but because he no longer needs noise to know himself. In an age of hyperconnectivity, the rarest experience is silence, not quiet, silence, the kind that demands presence, the kind that echoes, the kind that reveals what the scrolling and the swiping and the stimulation were hiding. You do not know who you are without noise, and that is by design. Modern culture does not fear male aggression, it fears male stillness. It does not fear your rebellion, it fears your resolve. It is not your fists that threaten the system, it is your refusal to laugh at the things you're supposed to find funny. It is your calm rejection of mediocrity. It is your willingness to walk alone, because in the silence, something ancient awakens. The lion, the hunter, the ascetic, the warrior monk, who does not bark orders but walks forward, eyes fixed, breath steady. Let's speak of the monastic tradition, not the robes, not the chanting, the essence. Men for thousands of years have sought solitude, not as punishment, but as purification. Desert fathers, Shaolin monks, Celtic warriors, Stoic emperors, they all knew what you have forgotten, that without solitude, a man becomes noise. He reflects everything, and absorbs nothing. He is a hall of mirrors, all identity, no soul. But a man who walks into the desert, willingly, intentionally, he begins to burn, not to die.
to be forged, and in that burning, distractions fall away, lies wither, neediness dies screaming, the fake confidence evaporates, the porn-fed ego shrinks, and what remains is terrifying in its simplicity. You don't need monkhood, you don't need to flee into a cave, but you do need to kill the noise. This is your battlefield now. Silence is your weapon, discipline is your armor, and solitude is your proving ground, because no man becomes himself in the spotlight, he becomes himself in the shadows, where no one claps. But there is another death you must face, the death of brotherhood. In ancient times, a man walked with other men, side by side, through war, through storms, through ritual, through challenge. They knew one another not through shared memes, but through shared suffering. But the modern man, he has followers, he has DMs, he has vague friendships built on irony, not loyalty. He has podcasts, but he does not have brothers. He does not have the kind of man who says, "You are failing, fix it. You are drifting, stand up. You are alone, but I see you." He has co-workers, not comrades. He has gaming buddies, not warriors at his side. And in this disconnection, he grows soft. Even his rage becomes digital, his struggles become private shame, and his silence is not strength, it is isolation. Let me be clear, solitude is a choice. Isolation is a symptom. Solitude sharpens, isolation rots. But you will not know the difference until you choose silence, instead of falling into it. And this is where your discipline must begin. Not with weights, not with cold showers, not with clean eating, but with saying no to comfort, to noise, to weakness, to all the petty little death traps disguised as convenience. Let us call upon another ghost, Marcus Aurelius. He was emperor of Rome, most powerful man in the world, yet he wrote in private, to himself, every morning. He did not publish, he did not perform, he wrote to remember who he was, because even he feared forgetting. In Meditations he says, "It is not death that a man should fear, but he should fear never beginning to live." And what does it mean to live? Not to seek pleasure, but to orient yourself toward the good, and to suffer everything that demands, even when no one sees, even when no one thanks you, even when she leaves, even when the world laughs, even when it would be so much easier to just log on, jerk off, DoorDash some dopamine, and forget. But if you do that, if you indulge again tomorrow, and the next day, and the next, your silence will not strengthen you, it will become a tomb. So what do? You build the monastery inside yourself. Your bed becomes a sacred altar. You rise early. You command your morning. You move your body, not to impress, but to dominate your lethargy. Your diet becomes ritual. Your training becomes prayer. Your work becomes war. And your solitude becomes a fire in which you are reborn every day. You stop waiting for purpose to arrive. You build it with every repetition, every act of restraint, every moment you deny the softness trying to reclaim you. And when you speak less, but with weight. When you love harder, but without addiction. And when you lead not because you crave power, but because you no longer need applause. You may lose friends, you may lose comfort, you may lose women who want the pet, not the man. Good, let them go. Your solitude will sting at first, but over time, you will find something unbreakable growing in your core. Self-respect, not the kind you scream about online, the kind that hums quietly in your chest when no one else is watching, the kind that lets you walk into a room and not care if anyone claps, because you clap for yourself in private. And eventually, you will find other men like you, not by chasing them, but by becoming so real that only the real can stand beside you. That is brotherhood, not noise, not likes, not shared trauma, but shared fire. You will know you are walking the path when the world becomes quiet, and you do not flinch, you do not grab your phone, you do not call her, you do not relapse, you sit, you breathe, you listen, and you begin to hear the lion within, not roaring, just waiting for you to remember that you were not born for comfort, you were born to rise, alone if you must, but never as a pet. Solitude is not loneliness, it is the forge. Enter and become.
The greatest lie of the modern age is not that men are dangerous, it is that their danger is meaningless. For what is a man without a throne? Not a seat of power, not authority over others, but a seat of burden, of sovereignty, of final, irrevocable accountability. You were meant to rule yourself, but you were taught to outsource that crown, to the algorithm, to the therapist, to the influencer, and now you wear a collar instead of a crown, and you wonder why your back aches, why your voice shakes, why your spirit buckles under the pressure of even the simplest command. You are not sick, you are not weak, you have simply abdicated. This is the final phase, not temptation, not solitude, not even discipline, but dominion. And dominion is the one thing modern culture forbids a man to claim. Why? Because it is the source of all masculine gravity. A man in dominion cannot be programmed. He does not tremble before trends. He does not explain himself to mobs. He does not barter for sex with compliant behavior. He creates order, not because he is told, but because he must, and the world is terrified of this, because when a man begins to act from dominion, he stops asking for permission to exist. He becomes law, not legal law, existential law. His presence is weight, his word is structure, his will is architecture, and in a world built on liquidity, such solidity is treated as heresy. Let's remember Carl Jung, the man who ventured into the underworld of the psyche, and returned not with diagnoses but myth, not with prescriptions but symbols. He taught us that the modern man suffers not from the presence of evil, but from the absence of the sacred, and what is sacred to the masculine, the throne, not to rule others, to rule one's nature, your lust, your rage, your chaos, your hunger, your pain, your need for validation, your tendency to collapse in the presence of softness. All of it must kneel before your higher mission. If it does not, then you serve them, and he who serves his own compulsions is not a man. He is a slave wrapped in the language of freedom. He is a pet that believes it is king because the leash is long. You were not made to live on leashes. You were made for the throne, but thrones come with weight. No applause, no trophies.